desert. I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere where there's water.
Water is essential for life, for the health of not only humans, but for all the living things on the earth. And there's only a small percentage of water that exists that is really usable.
If you look at all the water on the earth, 97% of it is salt water. You can't really use it. Of the remaining 3%, 2/3 of it, it's either ice caps, glaciers, or groundwater that's so deep it's not accessible. So only 1% of all water on Earth is actually anywhere near where human beings can use it. Water is so important and so valuable, but it's still a scarce resource. If people don't use it wisely, we could run out.
A lot of us think that everything will be provided, that we have some kind of great overlord looking over us and saying, hey, you're gonna have all the water you need, all the food you need. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of you. But that's not the case. Hi, my name is Samantha Bode, and I am the director of The Longest Straw. I am going to backpack the whole length of the Los Angeles Aqueduct, 338 miles, from Los Angeles through the Owens Valley to the Mono Basin to get a better idea, a better sense of the people, places, and water that allow me and allow Los Angeles to thrive and survive every day. I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania with a water well in my backyard and a lot of water falling from the sky. So I never really had any kind of reason to question where my water came from. I moved to Los Angeles in 2008, and I went camping up to Mono Lake, and I was just really surprised to see the familiar white truck emblazoned with the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power sigil on the side. I was like, why is the Department of Water and Power 300 miles northeast of the city of Los Angeles? And that's when I found out about the Los Angeles Aqueduct. The Los Angeles Aqueduct was built in 1913 by Frederick Eaton and William Mulholland to bring water from the lower Owens River to Los Angeles. So when they brought this water here, the population just exploded, and they eventually had to extend it all the way up into the Mono Basin in 1941, and then expand it even more in 1970 to include a second aqueduct. So after I found out about this aqueduct, I went back to Los Angeles and I asked my friends and I asked strangers, and I was like, do you know about this aqueduct? Do you know about this aqueduct? And all of them just gave me either really vague answers or just quoted the Roman Polanski movie Chinatown. People don't really seem to care that it's coming from really, really far away. They turn on their tap, water comes out, and they just seem to be satisfied with that. They don't really feel the need to question it any further. But all of these water struggles were just unfolding around me. My childhood waters were being contaminated by fracking. The Missouri River is threatened by a giant oil pipeline. And the people in the Central Valley, their wells have gone dry. Some of them have no water in East Porterville. The fact that we Angelenos take our water such for granted that we let it run onto the street and we have all these grassy lawns and we don't feel the need to understand where it comes from and appreciate where it comes from just blew my mind. The earth is trying so hard to warn us, and we're just not listening because we just have this water infrastructure that just keeps bringing water to us and bringing water to us and bringing water to us, and we do not even question it. But if I have a better understanding of where my water comes from, I will take greater responsibility to make sure that that water is safe. Today is May 21st, and We leave on our journey tomorrow up the Los Angeles Aqueduct. I'm a little terrified. Never really done backpacking to this extent before, specifically carrying a bunch of gear with me. At its heaviest, my pack weighs 60 pounds. That's about half of my body weight. I read somewhere that you're only supposed to carry about a third of your body weight, so this probably isn't a good idea that I'm carrying this much weight. We'll see how we do. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be great. That's what I gotta tell myself anyway. Okay. Oh yeah, this thing is full. Yeah. We're starting out at the Cascades, which are in Sylmar.
This is the end of the first and second aqueduct before they flow into the Van Orman complex. This is the very southern portion of the aqueduct. This concrete structure, we call it the Cascades. They break the energy of the water so that when it hits this lower elevation, it's not scouring the bottom of the concrete channel.
Throughout the journey, I had hiking buddies, which were people that would join me along the way because I felt a little safer when I had somebody else traveling with me. My first hiking buddy is Elizabeth. What made you want to come on this journey?
Well, one is I like you, like you're cool. It's good to be around cool people who inspire you and ask questions and make you think. And it's important for me to get different perspective, go on hikes, feel connected to nature, even if it is just going to the park and taking off my shoes and rubbing my feet against the grass. There's a different feeling I get. And it makes me feel good. It's different energy.
We traveled mostly via the Sierra Highway to Whitney Canyon. And when we got to Whitney Canyon, we met the ranger there, and the ranger basically said there's nowhere that legally we can sleep around here. So we decided to just haul it about 2 miles to a hotel, which is what we're in now. I'm gonna wrap my feet right now. I have some pretty awesome blisters going on. Yeah, boys, my feet are gonna be nice after this trip. Come and get it. Day 2 buddy is Angela, the producer of this film.
We are on a road owned by the LADWP between the city of Saugus and the Angeles National Forest. This is kind of the border between civilized LA and the great blue yonder.
That is the Drinkwater Reservoir, part of the Los Angeles Aqueduct system. Woohoo! We are at the old site for the St. Francis Dam. And what happened here in 1928 was that a dam that was part of the aqueduct system burst.
When Los Angeles was growing in the period of about 1920 to the 1930 or so, they wanted to have as much water stored down here in Los Angeles as possible to tide them over in case of drought. One of the reservoirs they built in that period was called the St. Francis. That dam was built against mountainsides that weren't solid, good rock. The dam lasted about 2 years, and one of the embankments on the east side failed in the middle of the night one night in March of 1928, and the entire reservoir washed onto the ocean. On the way, the water washed out a number of towns, it washed out work camps. It killed, they think, between 450 and 500 people that night.
Today is day 4 of the hike. We camped here last night. It was a very weird experience because we cowboy camped, which means we were sleeping outside, no tent. I had to tape my hips, so I'm hoping that it will help with the rubbing. And now we're gonna get started. It's about 8 o'clock. The LA Aqueduct flows entirely by gravity. There's no pumping.
It generates electricity, in fact. We've not only got a water supply by owning an aqueduct, we have a power supply as well.
We're gonna meet up with Darwin. Angela's gonna leave me, and then I'm gonna go on my own from there for a couple of days. Don't leave me out here, you guys.
It's my dream to leave you out in the middle of nowhere, Sam.
We're actually getting another camera just so we can look at the sad expression on your face out the back window as we pull away.
Why are you scared, Sam?
I am. I haven't felt safe since the day I left. And it's really hard because I'm supposed to be making a documentary at the same time as doing this hike, and my pack is so heavy. And I mean, I know there's a lot worse things that people can go through, like war. I mean, the fact that I'm choosing to put myself through this. Why am I doing this? I think I just bit off a little more than I can chew.
This is the footage of us leaving.
Yep.
You gonna be okay on your own, Sam?
No. Not one bit. I planned this route ahead of time, but I didn't like drive it, or I didn't see a lot of the places that I was going to go. So therefore, it was a total shock every day waking up and being like, where am I going to be hiking to today? Like, is there gonna be trees there? Who knows? Is there gonna be water? Maybe. So it was just like every day was a new adventure because I'd never seen any of these places before for the most part.
Decided that water equals wealth. That's wealth.
That statement is the truest statement I've heard all day.
Yeah. And there you have it, 3 liters of water. Take me 15 miles.
We are hiking the PCT. Pacific Crest Trail.
2,650 miles long. Starts in Campo, California, right by the Mexican border, and stops in Canada.
The aqueduct follows the Pacific Crest Trail for about 15-20 miles. Hiker Town is a hiker hostel on the PCT. What it basically is a bunch of sheds that have false fronts to make it look like the Old West. So you could stay in these sheds if you wanted to. But we all just piled into the garage. And I met this guy that was laid up for a long time at Hiker Town. How does it feel now?
It's kind of rotten.
The guy with the blister, bring him over. Just bring that right here. Right down.
Keep it elevated.
Keep it elevated. Okay. Okay.
Have you ever driven an ambulance before?
No, first time driving in an ambulance.
Okay.
You in?
Hiker ambulance. Can you believe that?
I'm meeting a lot of PCT hikers, which is really cool.
Go back by the drive.
All of them seem to be having a lot of fun, which makes me feel a little more comfortable about my own trip.
You did good.
Got him. We got him safe. We got him safe.
Man, they got weird hospitals out there.
Yeah. Pick one. Yeah, here's another one.
Pick one. What do you want to be in?
Day 9 of following the longest straw to Mono Lake. We come across the California LA Aqueduct crossover here. The California Aqueduct comes from the western side of the Sierras, and the Los Angeles Aqueduct comes from the eastern side of the Sierras. This is the only time that the two aqueducts cross, and it happens to be in the southern part of the western Mojave Desert. It's just pretty interesting to see this shocking expanse of blue river in the midst of all this brown.
Currently, Los Angeles gets water from wells in the San Fernando Valley and in Los Angeles itself. Colorado River water, state water, and Owens River water through the LA Aqueduct, the difference.
The California Aqueduct feeds the cities of San Diego, Los Angeles, among other cities, whereas the Los Angeles Aqueduct only feeds Los Angeles. Angela would come up every weekend and bring me food, my next hiking buddy, and we would cache water. How much water we got there?
5 gallons. It's 2 days worth.
We would have 2 water caches a week, and I would pray to whatever higher power I had that the water cache would still be there when I got there.
So this bush will provide cover from that direction. This bush will provide cover from that direction.
Sounds great.
One of the methods of constructing the aqueduct and conveying the water in the desert section are what we call sag pipes. The way they work, the water flows in higher on one end than the other ends. It flows down, across the bottom, and up the other side, but not as high as it went in. So the water is still flowing downhill.
The aqueduct travels about 130 miles through the heart of the western Mojave Desert. In the desert section, I had 3 hiking buddies. Jonathan, whom I'd never met before, Sadie, an environmental anthropologist, and Heather, who is a dear, dear old friend.
The first day, I almost gave up. We were like 3 miles in, and we had a lot more uphill to go, and I was absolutely exhausted and wondering if I was actually capable of doing this. Worried that I wasn't able to hike in this heat with this much weight on my back, and I was just genuinely scared. I really just had to like power through the pain.
It was a little bit more physically difficult than I had anticipated, and I think we were a little bit more concerned about water and having enough of it to drink throughout.
In the desert, all I thought about was water the whole time. And not water in the light of like, oh, water conservation, let's all save the water. It was like, oh my God, I want to drink water and I can't because I need to ration all of my water. When you're out in the blazing sun and it's 104 degrees and you're sweating and you stink and you want to make a hot meal, but you can't because you have to conserve your water. And so you're just forced to eat peanut butter crackers and granola bars and like chicken jerky that you made yourself that tastes like cardboard. And it's like, okay, and then, you know, your mind spins out. Like, if I don't save this water, I'm going to die out here. And they'll find my crispy body next to the scorpions.
It's a very strange feeling to know that you're so close to water, and yet you can't drink any of it. No faucets, there's no way for us to get to what's in the aqueduct. So yeah, it's weird.
So where are we right now, Heather? What is this? This is the aqueduct. I'm very thirsty. I would like some of it. And if we had a very long straw, perhaps we could.
In the desert, what we would do is hike from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m., stop until 4 p.m., and then hike till 7 p.m. And that was the only hours we could hike because during the hours of 11 to 4, it was just way too hot to do anything.
Just chilling in the shade shelter, doing what we do, hiding from the sun in the shade shelter, yeah.
We're in a shade shelter right now that we made, and it's just getting all sorts of crazy up in here. because it's windy in the desert too. Not only is it hot and sunny and could kill you if you don't have water, it's also windy here, and it's terrifying. And it's like, even if you try to lay down and take a nap, you're getting slapped in the face with a cart all the time. I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere where there's water. We're just trying to make it to our next cache, which is about 14 miles away. We each have about, I'm gonna guess 4 liters of water left over. Yeah, so it's just gonna be basically a race to the cache. What are we doing?
What's that?
What are we doing?
Well, we got into a water situation, wherein we can't find our water cache, alas. We weren't out of water, but we were very close to being out of water, and we had to hitch a ride into the town of Mojave and get water from the convenience store. It just goes to show that it's something that we kind of, in ordinary life, we take for granted, that wherever we happen to be, water will be available. And out here in the desert, it's simply not true.
I'm excited to go back to a place where I can like turn on the faucet. It's like the biggest miracle. Spending a week out here without that luxury makes you be in complete awe of the fact that we can do that.
The desert is just so oppressive. And it just like literally beats you down. Spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. I would not wish that walk on my worst enemy. It was terrible. It just blows my mind that our water is forced to travel through this harsh environment every day. Sadie and I woke up one morning, we're like, all right, we're hiking to the Haywee Reservoir, which is one of the reservoirs on the Aqueduct. And the Haywee Reservoir is not open to the public. So we went around the gate. Sure enough, like 5 minutes later, DWP truck pulls up, and this guy says, what are you girls doing? I'm like, following the aqueduct. And he's like, did you not see the gate with the no trespassing sign? I was like, oh, my GPS says this is BLM land. And he's like, do you girls want some chicken?
This is my official DWP chicken with my official DWP bread and DWP potato salad and iced tea and delicious water. He has said that when he's off his shift, he'll be like, cool to drive us around the reservoir and show us some stuff. So, yeah, this is a wonderful, magical day. Good job, Department of Water and Power. Hey, 24,000 acre feet.
South Haywee holds at the most, I think, probably about 29,000 acre feet of water South Haywee does. And I think it's only 12,000 for North Haywee.
That's a lot of water.
But it's, you know, it won't last too long considering the high demands of the city of Los Angeles.
Encountering somebody that we kind of would have assumed would be a little bit forbidding and kind of telling us to keep away, but who was just so kind. And I think the way he reacted to us was also kind of a sign of our privilege. As small white women, we're not seen as threatening. We're seen as like people to be protected.
Yeah, out here though, you know, it's like there's hardly anybody around to try and help out the most we can. Some people may not care, but I'm one that likes to look and say, okay, what are these people doing? Are they okay? You got enough stuff? You all right?
We really appreciate that. Yeah, so that was really nice.
I hope you run into more nice people as you go up.
Me too. I was like, wow, I hope it's like this at every reservoir. That would be nice.
I'm in the North Haywee Reservoir. The one with all the arsenic in it.
Can arsenic seep through your skin?
Probably. Whatever, it feels really good. Yeah, it's beautiful. But it was really interesting to be around the reservoir. It was cooler. There was totally different vegetation, and yet surrounding us on this rim was this like horribly foreboding, dry landscape of sand and scrub and stuff. By showing an image like this, and we understand just how transformative the application of water to a landscape is.
And so now I am on my own for the next week. No hiking buddy, just me.
Followed the aqueduct from Olancha Creek to Braley Creek, and then just decided to stop for the rest of the day.
What?
After traveling for so long through the desert, you know, it's just good to see a natural creek. Yeah, it's really good to see a natural creek.
Water to the west of the aqueduct seems to be abundant, but then as soon as it gets to the aqueduct, that stream or that creek disappears. And I'm guessing it's because it goes all into the aqueduct.
When Los Angeles finished their first aqueduct in 1913, they cut the Owens River off. The river went into the ditch that flowed to Los Angeles. Every stream that went into Owens Lake no longer did so. And Owens Lake, over about 10 years, by about the mid-20s or so, went away. Before the aqueduct was finished, we'd be underwater, maybe 15 or 20 feet of water here. Very alkaline, no fish. The lake at that time had no outlet, so all the minerals that came in stayed when the water evaporated. Because Owens Lake was getting smaller, it was exposing this alkali bathtub ring. And when the wind blew, there were profound dust storms off that lake.
On a windy day, we have some of the worst air quality in the United States here. From what I've read and from what I've gathered from people that work with air quality testing, breathing in dust that is smaller than 10 ppm, which is 10 parts per million, can potentially lead to long-term lung problems like emphysema or possibly even like cancer, you know?
Los Angeles reaped almost uncountable wealth with that water. Well, the people up here breathed dust for 80 years. And that's not a fair trade. So in 1978, they began looking at the dust issues at Owens Lake. In 1998, an agreement was signed by LA to fix the dust at Owens Lake.
We basically created shallow flooding areas on those areas that would have emitted dust.
The water came on for the dust project in 2001 in November. And the following spring, there were birds just all over the place. We've seen the wildlife return as just an accidental consequence of the water being out there to fix the dust. The main food source for birds here at Owens Lake are brine flies. These are the empty pupa cases of the flies, and the birds eat all of it. The birds eat the larvae, they'll eat the pupae, they'll eat the adults if they can catch them. The color of this particular pond is caused by very primitive and early life forms. They're halophiles. They love briny, super briny conditions. They have a pigment in them that's this bright red and pink. So in the winter, when it gets cold, they kind of shut down. We lose this color. But this time of year, you get these beautiful white salt crystal pressure ridges contrasted with the color. And then throw in the High Sierra behind it. It's not just any place on Earth. It's the Owens Valley at Owens Lake.
Goodbye, dry Owens Lake bed. It feels kind of stressful, honestly, to not have water caches and rely on streams. But we're in the Owens Valley. This is the spot. You know, the reason that Los Angeles came here was because there was water.
We are at Portuguese Joe campground near Lone Pine. I got here at like 11 a.m. on day 36. went down into Lone Pine and just was kind of hanging around.
Welcome to Lone Pine!
These are new PBCs. Those are core blind candidates that are joining our chapter, which is Slim Princess 395.
I go past the Metabolic Studios IOU garden. So what they did was they made soil for people so that people could take their soil and grow things with it. So it was like, we took your water, let us give you some soil back. I'm sitting there looking at this Metabolic Studios and happened to come across some PCT hikers that I had met back in the Antelope Valley.
Y'all know about Egyptian rat screw?
Yeah.
It's a very violent game.
Attila the Bun, I think you remember him from when he was lacerating his blood blister on my camera.
It's all in the money, boys! All in the money!
We're in trouble now.
Oh! My tooth! Oh, man.
What is that now?
It's a camel spider.
And what do they do to you?
They bite you when you're sleeping. And then they have like a Novocaine they inject, and it makes your skin necrotic. And then they eat the necrotic tissue.
Yeah.
Get out of there. He wants to attack you.
They love you. And unfortunately, Attila, his blood blister, it was still looking like a little bit infected, and so he decided to get off trail.
All right, you guys be safe. Salam alaikum. One love.
Through Attila, I met my hiking buddy for this week.
My name is Corey. I was hiking the PCT. I had to get to Reno by July 4th so I could see my dog, and I couldn't continue on the PCT where I was because I would not make it out in time. There was just too many miles before the next possible way to get off. So I decided, I'd hang out with Sam until I had to go. You need your laundry done. That creek is the spot. That water goes to LA, right?
Yeah.
Nice. I like to give back.
This morning, we left Portuguillo around 7 a.m.
Started off kind of very warm. It definitely got over 100 degrees. And so we took cover under this like spillway under the highway. So it was kind of like tunnels. Did a lot of walking along the barbed wire fenced aqueduct.
I was musing that maybe I should call this film, instead of The Longest Straw, call it The Longest Fence. That's what the aqueduct is. It's just one giant fence. I'm just trying to figure out where my water comes from, and they're making it really hard.
The relations between the people in the Owens Valley and the people down in Los Angeles, they have run hot and cold over a century now that the LA went up there to get water.
The way water is managed up here by the Department of Water and Power City of Los Angeles, they need to be watched, just like any other agency.
So the Owens Valley Committee is a group of concerned citizens. Our phrase is, we watch the water. We try to bring to people's attention the situation in this valley with DWP and the pumping.
Everybody's focused on Chinatown in 1913 in Mulholland, but the real battle began when the second aqueduct was finished.
In the 50s, the city grew steadily, and that's when they decided we need another aqueduct to bring more water from the Owens Valley. The second aqueduct adds about 50% of capacity to the first aqueduct.
And it was no longer going to be just taking surface water, snowmelt, south. It was going to be taking the surface water and pumping water from under the ground. And that caused severe damage in 1970.
In the Owens Valley, excess water goes out, and then it just hits the bottom, and there's so much pressure, it just seeps up out of the ground. And it recharges and creates health in this groundwater basin. And it keeps plants and animals alive. In the early 70s, when they started pumping for export in the second barrel, the water table was about 10 feet. After pumping, it went to at least 40 feet. So no vegetation can reach that. Right. and that turned into a moonscape. This is what's called the Water Agreement. It prescribes an enhancement and mitigation projects, and those are supposed to either offset or minimize the effects of the action. So looking out here, and you can see all the trees, and you can see a lot of water-dependent vegetation. This is what they call the Lower Owens River Project. And the Lower Owens River Project is putting some water back in the Owens River to mitigate for all the lost seeps and springs after the city started pumping. So LA has to perform mitigation measures in compliance with the water agreement. They have to. And that's part of our challenge as the OVC, is to make sure that it's enforced.
It's so big, and there's so little people to look after.
It's hard to get people to comply with the agreement, frankly. The city will say, well, we are, and they're not.
Right.
Inyo County's budget is so small that there's not boots on the ground looking at all the death that's happening by 1,000 cuts. So.
For example, they started deepening what they call ditches. So what happens is if you deepen a ditch around a spring, you drop the water table, and then it runs straight into the aqueduct for them. So they do that at one little spring, and then up the valley at another little, seep. And so then how do people catch them? Well, you got to have an army.
By knowing about this waterway, this Los Angeles Aqueduct, what do you think the people of Los Angeles can do?
Basically, this is a hidden treasure. It's like a little arm of Los Angeles in a way, because it's owned by them, but it's a big hidden treasure.
The city of LA, in the Department of Water and Power, the water system, owns a huge area in the Owens Valley.
Their largest park in Los Angeles, maybe Griffith Park. Up here they own 240,000 acres. Own it, and it's glorious.
We are like a colony, a resource colony.
And once they discover that, they can call their elected officials, and they can say, we want to keep it safe.
We need the regular people of Los Angeles and the kids in school to know where their water comes from and what impacts are happening up here. And we invite them to participate up here, to come up and go trout fishing, but go paddling on the Lower Owens River, to go out and look at birds at Owens Lake, and all of that goes with all this land they own.
The Manzanar War Relocation Center, also known as an internment camp.
For who?
For the Japanese during World War II, because Americans back then were afraid that the Japanese here in America would support the Japanese Empire and sabotage the American war effort. Not our nation's finest hour. It'd be like this in the summer, just hot and nasty. And in the winter, I could see this place getting freezing cold. I felt the heat of the day there, inside their little cabins, and it was brutal, absolutely brutal. It's over 100 degrees in those cabins, where you're just sitting in them sweating. They're essentially sweat boxes. And it's crazy to think that at the height of the population, there was over 10,000 people in 1 square mile. Our government got away with a lot of not humane and not cool things, and it was totally fine back then. Just blew my mind.
To tie it back to Los Angeles, the land that was leased by the U.S. Army in 1942 to build Manzanar was owned by none other than the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power.
There was this huge storm that was blowing in from the south. We saw the rain coming up the sides of the mountains. The wind picked up really strong.
Getting pelted by rocks. That's the one.
We went wanted to stay dry, keep everything dry, so we set up a tent, and now we just have to play a big waiting game with Mother Nature and see if she'll let us walk today.
I don't know what to do. There's so far to go today. Not enough time.
Party tent! Woo! Yeah. Silly rain. The only thing that would make something like that could be a mountain lion. Coming down here from like the mountains for an easy snack.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. And they also have the M-shaped paws.
M for mountain lion.
This isn't very old either. A lot of the cartilage is still intact. Definitely got some bleach though. We did a lot of bushwhacking, so this was kind of make your own tracks. There were a lot of obstacles that needs to be negotiated. Found this dirt road, and then all of a sudden there's supposed to be a dirt road, but the GPS is off or the map is off.
We hiked out this road and somehow got into a cow pasture.
There's a fence all around us.
And there's cows too.
And there's dead cows that have teeth marks all over the bones. And we saw mountain lion tracks over there a while ago.
Did you hear that, ladies? That's right. You tell them. Cows, we're lost.
My name's Mark Lacey. I'm a rancher, 4th generation here in Inyo County. My great-grandfather settled here in 1867 in Independence.
We have a cow-calf ranching operation in Inyo County and Mono County. Right around the turn of the century here in Inyo County, there was somewhere around 425 farm and ranch operations or families here. And they were irrigating crops, forage crops, trees. So DEP started acquiring the rights to the water right after turn of the century. My great-grandfather sold the last of his properties to DEP in around 1915. They own more than half of all the private land in Inyo County by a large margin than anybody else.
So this land technically is owned by the Department of Water and Power, right?
Correct.
What is it like to lease land from the department?
You know, we've been on DEP land for about over 80 years, you know.
Yeah.
And they've always been good landlords.
Largely, we can operate freely under the grazing management plans, which we have to do some special grazing around sensitive plants. We're required to irrigate those lands and keep them maintained. We can have improvements that are necessary for our operations, livestock handling facilities, corrals, barns, things that are necessary. We can make investments in those ourselves with their approval.
They require us to leave open 75% of all the lands that are leased for public access. We're allowed to lock or deny access on 25%, but nobody, and I mean nobody, locks up hardly anything. We've had ranches in Nevada and Oregon, Montana. We've run cattle in almost 11 western states, really, but always end up coming back here. It's my home, and I really don't have any plans to leave.
DEP controls the heart of Owens Valley, and you're not likely to see much development because if they develop up here, that would require water resources. There's always just been a feeling of security here that because there's really no reason for DEP to do anything different with the lands. Now, that being said, the demand in LA has far outstripped the supply of water up here. If DEP has to take what they're legally entitled to take up here, it may be at the expense of pretty much everything in Inyo County. Really realize where your water's coming from, and that to your benefit down there is an impact somewhere else. Hey, you knucklehead.
A lot of the people in the Owens Valley and the towns in the Owens Valley have a love-hate relationship with the Department of Water and Power. It employs a lot of people in the valley. It keeps the valley beautiful that everyone can enjoy. Yet also there's just this constant struggle over who's taking what water, where is it going, you know, how much is being taken, are they taking too much? The Department of Water and Power, they have a slew of lawyers, and the Owens Valley really doesn't have a leg to stand on in that department because they don't have a lot of money. I mean, most of the towns here survive based on tourism, and like that's not necessarily that lucrative, particularly when you can't necessarily develop stuff. So it's like you can only have so many hotels, you can only have so many restaurants, because when the Department of Water and Power owns all the land, you can't really build a new restaurant or build a new hotel. So.
The Los Angeles Aqueduct, some of it is steel pipe, some of it is this concrete box conduit, some of it is lined, open canal, some of it is just earthen ditch in the ground, and the rest of it is tunnels. From the intake to the Cascades, it's 233 miles.
The Owens River intake was not what I was expecting it to be. I thought it was going to be like military lockdown, you know, no public access. You know, they thought they would have like a giant plant with security everywhere, and that's not what it was. The public could come and go and access it as they please. There were people fishing there.
Well, I'm Alan Baycock. I'm the water program coordinator for the Big Pine Tribe, as well as a tribal member. And as the water program coordinator, I work with the tribe dealing with water quality issues and water quantity issues.
You got the Southern Paiute, you got the Northern Paiute, and you got the Owens Valley Paiute. And the Owens Valley Paiute lived in a very small area compared to the Northern Paiute and the Southern Paiute. And part of that was because look where we live. We had water. And we called this place Paiahunadu. Paia is water. And Paiahunadu was the place where water flows.
Water is something that's important in our culture and our heritage and our stories. We believe everybody has that right to water, utilized for the benefit of all, not only just the human people, but the plant people, the tree people, the animal people, even rocks. And some of our blessings, we take some water, put it on the rocks, and seeing that everything around us is alive.
The river would come through, and I mean, there was no turnout that you see here. It just flowed completely down in this direction.
A lot of people, I think, don't really connect the dots because it's so far away. I still don't even understand it, and I've been walking with it for the past, like, month and a half. The system that was put in place is so simple yet so complicated because it's just so unnatural.
Yeah. We've created these unnatural systems and then expect them to continue to survive in a natural world. The aqueduct, it's not a river, it's not the Owens River. The Owens River, it snakes around, creating this very lush habitat with a great diversity of life. The aqueduct doesn't do that. The aqueduct has one use, and that's to move water from the Owens Valley to LA. You've reduced the water to be your slave, and you've desertified the land around it because it can't receive what it needs. One thing I think that is difficult for folks from Los Angeles to understand is that this place has changed, and people that live here see that. It's not like there was a convenience store at one point when I was growing up, and now there's a high-rise building. I mean, then at least it's removed from existence, but here all the scars still remain.
The LA Aqueduct was a piece of history, but it didn't stay in history. It continues to be in operation. And as long as it's in operation, it is impacting the places that water is being transferred from those places to LA.
Today is day 45 of Journey Up the Longest Straw. I asked Sage if he wouldn't mind giving me a tour of Big Pine. So how long have you lived in Big Pine?
Born and raised here for the most part, but I went back and forth between Big Pine and my father's tribe in Taos, New Mexico, Taos Pueblo. And there used to be a pear orchard over here.
Do they know who planted it?
Yeah, there's some families that did it.
Nobody maintains this place, right?
Nope, not no more. It's maintaining itself. Imagine the whole valley looking at it like this at one time.
This grass?
Grass and trees, cottonwoods. Grandma said the valley used to be covered in them. Big difference. Would have been a different place. And then this area over here is Tinnamaha. It's one of the older sites that people used to live to. Campground now.
Do you guys like having all the campgrounds everywhere?
Well, at least we can come up here and gather and stuff whenever we need to. Otherwise, it's kind of tragic to think about our people were at one time perfectly adapt here, lived here, thrived, and did everything. But now it belongs to something else. We're providing the sustenance for these people to live on and survive. Maybe they're taking it for granted, all this water that comes from us and has left our land, not for us to use, but for others to have. That kind of rubs in the wrong way, because who knows how people are using water down there. Are they taking care of it? Are they just letting it leak onto the roads, the paved roads, go nowhere? It's kind of sad to know that up there, that resource, all those mountains, that's where it's coming from. It's coming from there. And we can actually see every single day of our lives here the source of this water. And I just hope that the people down there understand that it comes from someplace, and not to take it for granted, and give thanks for it at least. Because I think people need to be more grateful for what they have in their lives, and water is definitely something that keeps us all alive. Because Starbucks needs water.
The Los Angeles Aqueduct technically starts here, but the Mono extension is still 100 miles away. So we still got a ways to go. Up the Owens River, up the gorge, to the intakes on Mono Lake.
For more than 50 miles north of the intake, the aqueduct is actually the Owens River.
We hiked all along the Owens River. It's hot, but not too hot. All in all, it's just really beautiful out here.
Whoa, look at that. I'm gonna put my head in it. There's these series of springs that we found that throw water out of these pipes, kind of like wells. And this is one of them where we're taking our siesta. And this is by far the clearest and the deepest pool that we've seen. So we're gonna go swim in it, or at least soak in it. Oh no, I'm sliding! I definitely think that I always was somewhat appreciative of water. Definitely more on this trip.
How does it feel?
Ooh, feels nice. You're not at the convenience of just turning on your faucet and filling up your water bottle, or going to the store and buying a bottle of water. When you're thirsty out here, it's a job, you know, you gotta work for it.
Once, twice, dip it, go once, twice, 3 times the filtration device. I love you, Stefan. You like my song?
I do.
Haven't got yard yet. So far, so good. We'll see you in a few weeks. And we're good. big drop for a small girl with a big pack.
What you doing, Sam?
I'm gonna ford the river. Yay!
How's that water feel?
Oh, it feels so nice. Oh my, that's the biggest crawfish I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, that is.
Did you see that guy?
I do now.
He's coming at me. He's gonna pinch me. Oh my god. We should catch him and eat him.
He's waving.
Hi. Don't put him on my leg.
Normally I'm pretty high spirits on trail and can keep up with people and, you know, just have an easy time, and it was not that on Wednesday. I'm not feeling good today. I think I have a tumor.
He's not a tumor.
Really bad stomach and abdominal cramps, and then a little bit of puking on the side of the highway. Then it got to the point where, like, I was hiking super, super slow, like even slower than Sam. I kept on looking up a couple times, and I was like, Sam's so fast right now. It's like, is this how she feels?
And so then we found the Bishop Hiker Hostel, California, because Corey was in really bad shape.
How you feeling, Corey?
I'm not feeling so hot, and anything I eat or drink seems to want to come up shortly thereafter. ER visits are so expensive, and I feel like all they're gonna do is give me IV fluids and maybe some anti-nausea medicine, and send me on my way and say, oh, it's a bug. You're just gonna have to let it run its course.
Yeah, but what if it is Giardia?
All right, Moss.
I was sick for like 2 days. The third day, I felt a lot better. I was able to keep down breakfast, and then lunch, I had a veggie burger and a pineapple smoothie.
What are you doing, Corey?
I'm making eggs and making plans, meeting new friends.
Ditching Sam?
Not so much ditching Sam as saying I'll see you later. Next stop for me is, well, I'm getting back on the PCT. Just don't make eye contact with it, and it'll be okay.
Bye, guys. Day 52 of the journey up the longest straw. I started off at the Pleasant Valley campground. And then I proceeded to walk the length of the Pleasant Valley Reservoir. Today and for the rest of the trip, I will be basically alone until I get to Mono Lake. I'm back to carrying all of my own gear again, which is kind of daunting. And I went up the Owens River Gorge, which was elevation to the max. I think I gained like 3,000 feet in one day. Man, I don't know if it's that they don't repair that part of the pipeline very often or what. There were leaks everywhere, all up and down that gorge. Leaking, pipes everywhere. It was kind of like disheartening to see, but then also cool because I was like, cool, I have like a constant source of water right here. And I would just like fill up my water bottle as I went.
The Owens River Gorge, it's actually like a mini Grand Canyon. It goes from Inyo County, just north of the town of Bishop, all the way up into Mono County. And it's a gorge that is about 2,400 foot in elevation. The city of Los Angeles has 3 hydroelectric power plants. And all the water from Long Valley Dam or Lake Crowley, which is north of the gorge, it comes through penstocks that feeds water to generate hydroelectricity. When we built the hydroelectric power plants back in the 1950 or so, the gorge was essentially dewatered. In the early 90s, one of the penstocks broke and reestablished water into the gorge. And the Department of Fish and Wildlife required us to rewater the gorge to maintain fish in good condition.
I walked down to the Owens River on the gorge road and got some water. Saw some people bouldering and rock climbing. It was just beautiful down there. The Owens River gorge is just phenomenal. Beautiful trees started appearing, as you can see behind me. This giant pine tree that got sap all over me. There's sap everywhere now because I leaned up against this part. Dumb. And then I walked to Crowley, which is one of the reservoirs on the aqueduct. Boated across to Layton Springs. I love that the scenery is changing into greener things. It really makes me understand the Owens Valley a little bit more, and how, because the groundwater is being taken, all of the brush and stuff is dying. Today is day 56 of Journey Up the Longest Straw. I walked past a bunch of hot springs. Went past a few ranches, saw a bunch of cows. Up here, they don't really have fences around the pastures, and so the cows are just kind of running from this place to that place and all over the place. Only got about 20 miles until I get to the Lee Vining intake, which is the northernmost point of the aqueduct system. It's bittersweet that my journey's coming to an end. I don't know if I'm necessarily ready to go back to LA, but being out here is really lonely.
The west portal is the entrance to the Mono Crater's tunnel, and it's connected to the east portal, which is on private land on the Owens River.
When we extended the LA Aqueduct from the Owens Valley area, we extended the system north into Mono Basin. We diverted the 4 largest streams that flowed into Mono Lake.
So Grant Lake is a reservoir that is formed by Grant Dam, and it was built in 1940 by DWP. That stores water that's diverted from Lee Vining, Walker, and Parker creeks And then at this point, that water is leaving the reservoir and heading to the Mono Craters Tunnel or down Rush Creek, going on down to Mono Lake.
From 1941 to a period of probably in the early 80s, Mono Lake dropped 40 feet.
Mono Lake was dropping towards its lowest level, which it reached in 1982. The islands where California gulls nest became land bridged, and coyotes were getting out to the gull nesting areas. There were dust storms from the lake bed, kind of like at Owens Lake. It was just a dire situation for the lake.
So LADWP was challenged by the environmental community as causing that.
The Mono Lake Committee is a nonprofit citizens group that formed in 1978 to save the lake from excessive water diversions. And throughout the 80s, we got various legal protections in place and raised awareness and educated people about it. And we got a big water board decision in 1994 that set a higher lake level and set restoration goals for the streams. We've been working to implement that ever since.
Do you think it's important for people to have a relationship with their water? Like, why do you think it's so important?
I don't know, water is just going through everything. It's necessary for life. David Gaines, one of the committee's co-founders, said, "We are Mono Lake, and we're full of water." We have water in our bodies. We're drinking water from the watershed. So we're getting the same water that Mono Lake's getting. If you think about it, what happens to Mono Lake happens to us.
So today is day 63 of Journey of the Longest Straw. I'm gonna go past all of the intakes today. Rush, Walker, Parker intakes for the Mono extension.
So my name is Santiago Escalator. I work with the Mono Lake Committee. I manage their outdoor education program for educating the people of Los Angeles about the aqueduct and Mono Lake.
This is called Parker Creek. And if you look behind you, you will see the actual diversion, the actual mini dam that blocked this specific creek and actually got diverted to the aqueduct in LA.
We're doing close to 25 groups and over 300 students per season from May through November. We give them an array of activities, from hikes to environmental education activities, games, to eating together, cooking together, sharing life together for 5 days. And the goal is that the more individuals, the more youth, especially from LA, becomes aware of what is it that we have, right? Because they live in California, they depend on this water. The more ambassadors we're creating, we're educating, that will help us sustain this place for the foreseeable future.
So this is the beginning of your aqueduct, Los Angeles. Right, yeah, in the Eastern Sierras. Very nice, right? So here we are at the Levining intake on the Levining Creek of the Los Angeles Aqueduct. So this is the most northern point of the Los Angeles Aqueduct.
Coming in, Samantha. And one fine sunny day in LA, Sam turned on her tap and thought to herself, where does the water come from? She decided to follow it. Over 338 miles later, she ended up at the Mono Basin. She really did walk 338 miles.
This is the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. So to have like a group of people that I didn't know stand up clapping for me and acknowledging my achievement over the past 2 months and everything that I've like struggled through for was kind of beautiful, and it made it worth it.
And Samantha, we have a walking stick for you. Congratulations. You made it to Mono Lake. Good job. So you really did walk 338 miles. Congratulations, Sam. Sam Bode.
Here's the last leg of the journey, about 5 miles to Mono Lake. And so now I have my Manzanar walking stick that the Mono Lake Committee gave me in Barefoot Wines. Here we go.
More or less, Mono Lake is 30 miles long and it's about 9 miles wide. And in the middle, we have two main islands. The whitish one is called Pauha Island. And behind the darker one in the back, that is a Nejet. This lake has been said that it's about 160 feet deep, with the average around 57, 56 feet, so not very deep. And the beauty of Mono Lake is that it's an incredibly simple food chain. It all starts with algae, and then we have brine shrimp, which is an endemic species to this lake. It's not found anywhere else in the universe as we know it. And then the other creature that we get is the alkali fly. And this alkali fly is amazing. We get billions of them. They are strictly vegans. They only eat algae. You can put a sandwich, a nice yummy sandwich there, and they're not going to pay attention to it. And then the shrimp and flies become food for birds. Mono Lake water is over 2.5 times saltier than the ocean. Mono Lake has the pH of borax. It's almost like laundry soap. So this is the famous tufa. Tufas is actually limestone. It's calcium carbonate. But these things only form underwater. So the lake must have been at least 4 to 5 feet above this very top one here. And it was dropping at a rate of about a foot a year. The ecosystem started to become stressed. And it came to the point where it was within 10 to 20 feet of ecologically disappearing. In 1994, we got together and we came to this agreement that the 6392 was the level where the species that depend on the lake will survive. That agreement set amount of water that a lake can take. All depends on the level of the lake.
When it's below 6377 feet above sea level, LA DWP gets zero, nothing. Everything's shut off just because that's so low. We need to protect the lake. When it's between 6377 and 6380 feet above sea level, they only get 4,500 acre feet. And then when it's above 6380, they get 16,000 acre feet. And that's the range we've been in since 1997, 16,000 acre feet a year.
Well, using our data, it would be 6379.01.
Wow. Who thought we'd be here on this day and see it this low, right? So since the lake is below 6380, the water licenses that allow LA to divert water say that they have to cut back on their exports to the city. So they'll go from 16,000 acre feet of export, which they did last year and they've been doing for the past 20 years under the rules, down to 4,500, so about a 70% cutback. And if it continues to fall, if the drought were to go longer, they could actually get to the point of having a zero export. It's so convenient to have water that it's often forgotten that it's coming from a natural source and there are impacts of those supplies. And so when people make the connection, it really changes how they look at the water they use and the value they assign to it. So whether it's with Mono Lake in Los Angeles or anywhere else in California or the Western US, it's very important to know where your water comes from.
This film is not just about the Los Angeles Aqueduct. It's about people's relationship with water and trying to reflect on the struggle that our water makes to get to us. I mean, it has to pass through some of the most beautiful country that I've ever seen, but it also gets dammed and reservoired and siphoned all the way down to LA. So we can wash our clothes and wash our faces and quench our thirst. I mean, it goes through so much.
And so by jumping in this lake and semi-washing myself, trying to connect all of the dots of Los Angeles through the Owens Valley to the Mono Basin, my skin has seen all of them. So maybe by giving that back to the lake and saying, I recognize that it's all connected, and bringing that message back to the people of Los Angeles, maybe the lake is happy about that. However, it got in my nose. Mono Lake water, when it gets up your nose, burns like a Hooray! Woo! I see what the climate of Los Angeles is supposed to be. And so when I walk around Los Angeles and I see green grass everywhere and I see sprinklers just spraying out into the middle of the street, and I'm just like, wow, there's a whole bunch of environments that are suffering to varying degrees because of our vanity. I think now we just gotta kind of unwind the tape a little bit and maybe cut some stuff out. I'm not saying cut out water importation altogether, but definitely try to become less dependent on it. There really is a need for the simplification of water.
The water agencies, they say, oh, this is too complicated, you can't understand it. Everyone tries to make it complex. It's not. It's a simple issue. We have this much water. What are we going to use it for?
I'm Melanie Winter. I'm the founder and director of the River Project. The River Project is a nonprofit organization that works on watershed management strategies in Los Angeles. The River Project designed this program called Water LA, and Water LA is designed to help residents become more climate resilient and water resilient themselves, and then in aggregate, as more people adopt these different practices, it spreads all across the cities. These things range from getting rid of lawn and planting natives and doing some simple rain grading, putting in a rain tank, building a curb cut and a parkway basin, doing a gray water system, infiltration trenches, breaking up hardscapes and making them pervious. So we've got 6 strategies, and we've got guides to help people do these things.
You get in there, you get hands-on. I worked a cement cutter and I worked a jackhammer. Part of the agreement was that you in turn would then go to your neighbor's house and you would help work on your neighbor's projects. And you know, you get to know your neighbors again. It really built a sense of community with all of us.
People working on their individual properties to make small tweaks to keep that rainwater on site, to harvest it for reuse or to let it get into the groundwater basin.
I've got, I think, a 500-gallon rain tank in my front yard, and that's almost been filled a couple times. Our water bill has dropped significantly because we're not really watering that much anymore. But I like that it's hopefully replenishing the water table.
This neighborhood, these 23 homes, are getting almost 4 acre-feet to groundwater every year. So that's a lot of water, recharging our local water supply.
My name is Lee Gerard. Joe and I run Graywater Corps. It's a company that designs, installs, and teaches about graywater irrigation system on a residential level. Graywater is gently used wastewater from bathtubs, showers, laundry, and bathroom sinks that most people allow to go down the sewer and get wasted. The graywater systems we install recapture that water and use it a second time for landscape irrigation.
Today we had an amazing crew of people come installing a really great new graywater system that takes the water from our bathtub and our sink and uses it out here in our landscape.
Whoa, we got water! Hey, oh, yeah!
Graywater actually puts water back into the water table. So if you look across LA, street trees have been dying. You'll see like pine trees getting stressed and turning brown. So graywater can get that water out of the sewer system and back into the aquifer.
My name is Laura Allen, and I am an educator. I work with Graywater Action. We are at the Los Angeles Eco Village. It's an intentional community in Los Angeles. So this is the courtyard, and we have a graywater washing machine. We also have an outdoor sink, and so anybody who wants to use it just comes out, and we have soap that we all share that's plant-friendly, and we use the water, and then it goes out and waters our fruit trees. can see there's a fig tree, and there's grapes, there's blackberries, there's elderberries, apples, pote. There's a bunch of fruit trees around here. You can irrigate any plant that wants to be irrigated with gray water. You do need to manage the products you're putting into the system. So we encourage people, we call them plant-friendly products. They're those that are very low in salts and are free of boron. Every home that has a landscape is producing the gray water. It can be a great source of irrigation. So you can bypass the need for all of this expensive infrastructure and treatment and cost and energy use by just reusing what you have in your own home and putting it right into your own landscape. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and many water agencies right now are looking at trying to reuse all of the water.
The Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Plant was first started in 1984. We processed the sewage water here. Looks like chocolate shake.
Yeah, right.
February of this year, we started testing all these advanced treatment, what we call microfiltration.
Some people call it toilet to tap, which it's kind of funny because really every single water in the world, it's the same water that's been around forever, so it all is toilet to tap.
The goal is, once we got testing involved, to come out with what we want, they're going to build a advanced treatment facility here, full scale, to be able to sustain ourselves with our own resources here.
Water infrastructure in California was planned for mass expansion in a very short period of time, which is just not sustainable.
We have to become self-sufficient instead of wasting water like we do here.
Bringing water hundreds of miles across deserts and over mountains, and it passes over our hands and it becomes sewage. It's much better to allow that water to go back into the water table under your feet instead of out to the ocean where it's completely wasted.
We could have permeable driveways, gravel drives, Hollywood drives, and parkways retrofit. Those two things alone, that's massive.
Within the next 5 years, I think so many more people in Los Angeles are going to understand that we need to choose plants that are appropriate for our climate or grow food plants. So green lawns, those are just so inappropriate and they're really not ecologically beneficial for our city. So I think people will start to shift their view of what a beautiful landscape is. I also think there'll be a lot more support for people to reuse water.
The simple answers have been out there for over 30 years, and we need to implement them. We need to do it on a large scale.
I think that regular people who aren't in government have a stronger appreciation for the challenges that we're facing. So when they are helped to reach an understanding of what they can do that actually does make a difference, it's really exciting and it's very empowering.
And water is a linking issue. We are connected, and we're connected by nature, and we're connected by water.
This valley isn't just an arid desert that you drive through at high speeds to get to your vacation spot.
We're connected by this 350-mile aqueduct system into one big watershed, and it's going to be that way for a long time.
Let's work together. Let's get our projects together. Let's get our schools together.
These grassroots shifts can happen a lot more quickly and a lot more widespread than a municipal project can.
It's up to the people of Los Angeles that pay their bill to the Department of Water and Power to come together with the people of the Owens Valley and the Mono Basin and realize that we are all kin in water. We share the same water, and it's up to us to keep it safe for the animals, for the plants, for ourselves, and especially for future generations.